begin, a quick question. We have Goldfish on the table. Why is that, Nijjar?
Hear me out. We all have heard this line that goldfishes have zero or none memory, that they forget everything that they hear. 3 seconds, puffed, everything gone. They don't remember anything at all. But if you research a bit more beyond the reels that you see or the places where you read these infos from, you will figure out that ye such nahi hai, this isn't true. What really happens is goldfishes have in fact brilliant memory. They know how to spot, what to spot, where to spot, and how to remember it. So how did a smart species get branded as a forgetful one?
Not science, just a catchy myth, repeated so often that it felt true. And that's disinformation in its simplest form. Not loud, not always malicious, just familiar, shareable, and unchecked. In the era of AI, these myths don't just spread faster, they scale, adapt, and personalize.
Which brings us exactly to today's conversation. Disinformation in the age of AI and how we build, or how we can try to at least build societies that are resilient enough to question, pause, and remember what apparently the goldfish can't.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nishu.
I am Nirjar, and we are from TIES.
We will be your host for today's session.
This dialogue is curated by TIES. Let's admire this for 2 more minutes. Thank you. Alright, that's enough of entertainment. This dialogue again, like I told you before, is curated by TIES. What is TIES? Who we are, what we do? I'll tell you a lot about us. We at TIES are a youth-led organization that works at the intersection of research, media, and technology. With a digital community of around 3.5 lakh young minds in and across the globe. I know most of you don't know us, but you'll definitely know a lot more about us. And मेरा आदत है plug in करने का. Follow us, please, please, please. Go to on Instagram, search ties.in. Follow us right now. You love our content. Anyway, TIES in itself represents a generation that doesn't consume just information and or abide by it. It represents a generation that questions everything and wants to know everything. And with a proud, subtle note, I must say, TIES is probably the youngest organization here who is organizing a main summit event inside of the India AI Impact Summit. Yes. We could do better, guys. We could do better. Let's go louder. All right, great. In fact, we prove that leadership today is probably and most definitely driven by vision and not just age. Thank you.
We are joined in collaboration with Dr. Syama Prasad Mookerjee Research Foundation, a legacy think tank committed to policy research and nation building. SPMRF fosters the informed dialogue necessary for critical national issues.
Now, to help us unpack this critical issue that we are discussing today, we are honored to welcome an exceptional panel.
Representing Media and Research Affairs, Aditya Kaul, Senior Executive Editor at NDTV. Joining him is the Pathikrit Payne, Research Lead and Senior Research Fellow as SPMRF.
we are greatly pleased to have Achina, Sirrohi, Mayya, co-founder of AEOS Group and Aevy TV. यार इनको आपने तो देखा ही है यार on your Instagram, on YouTube. Can we get louder, guys? That's more like it. We'll get better towards the end of it. Don't worry. All right. Joining with her and with rest of us, we have Sir Mukesh Jain, CTO of Capgemini, who has been a stalwart of this tech industry. Okay, I have started to love the energy. Let's build up more towards the end of it, all right? Additionally, like most of you know, we were also expecting Shri Jitin Prasad ji, who is the Minister of State. He unfortunately couldn't make it due to some urgent commitments, but we really hope that we can make up for his absence. Thank you.
Lastly, we have Hardik Pathak, the co-founder of TIES, as the moderator of the session.
Let's pass the baton to him. Let's go, guys.
Hello. So we will start the session. A very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Hardik, and I will be your moderator for this India AI session on countering disinformation warfare and building resilient societies in an era of AI. A few moments ago, my colleagues Nishu and Nirjar has set the tone for this session in a rather memorable way by invoking the idea of goldfish memory. That simple example captures the very essence of misinformation, how it spreads quietly, embeds itself into public consciousness, and eventually shapes how we think, react, and decide. What once traveled through word of mouth or printed pages now moves at an unprecedented speed through AI-driven systems, especially in a diverse, connected, and digitally active India. And this is exactly the reason why this conversation matters today. With this, I would like to start the session with my esteemed panelists, beginning with Aditya Kaul. Sir, what comes through my mind is that misinformation today is no longer accidental. It is organized, targeted, and in many cases weaponized. The most aggressive disinformation campaigns against India originate beyond borders. Aditya sir, recently a deepfake video falsely showed you reporting that several army officers has resigned over alleged extrajudicial operations. It spread rapidly and was weaponized by Pakistani propagandists. Walk us through that incident. How did it happen? How fast did it spread? And what does it tell us about the sophistication of the state-sponsored disinformation?
Well, thank you very much, Hardik, for having me here. Firstly, it's great that India is hosting the Artificial Intelligence Summit out here at the Bharat Mandapam Ambedkar Center and Sushma Swaraj Bhawan. It's incredible not only because India is the fourth country to do this after UK, South Korea and France, but also everything that we do today, every part of our life in some or the other way is consumed by AI. And there are companies, there's private sector, there are perhaps some negative characters also indulging in the use of AI. So we can't run away from it. We also cannot only speak about the safety and the regulations of artificial intelligence, but we'll have to move beyond. And India has been speaking about democratization of the artificial intelligence. And I think that's incredible because the gap between the rural India and the urban India would be reduced with more use of artificial intelligence and technology. Similarly, India's push towards global south and including the countries of the global south in this AI journey is about a resilient future. And that's what I think is incredible about India hosting this and bringing more than 70 countries perhaps together on this platform. I think it's a very timely and very interesting topic about disinformation and creation of resilient societies, also because in the last 1 year, India has had the trouble to go through, unfortunately, Operation Sindoor, which you all followed very closely. And there are some incredible lessons that we have to learn. Earlier this morning, I was speaking to the Commander-in-Chief of India's Strategic Forces Command. I was also speaking to the Director General of DRDO, both of whom said that there are a lot of lessons to learn when it comes to Operation Sindoor for the Indian military, for the Indian government, and perhaps for the Indian masses as well. For the masses and for the government, the biggest of all challenges has been disinformation. If you remember those 4 days between 6th and 10th of May last year, apart from the missiles and the rockets coming from Pakistan, I think the biggest threat 24/7 was the kind of misinformation and disinformation that was coming from that side. And are we prepared? Were we prepared at that time? To give you a very basic, neutral and unbiased opinion, I don't think so. I think we did recognize that there was a huge challenge of disinformation coming in from Pakistan, but I don't think we were very much prepared, because there were just a handful of journalists who were playing the role of perhaps an artificial intelligence bot or a channel of the government of India who could counter the kind of propaganda that was coming 24/7 from Pakistan. So I think we need to realize increasingly that this is a time, firstly, we have been saying for a decade now, that news breaks first on social media and then goes on television, etc. And many a times this news is artificial because this is planted in a certain fashion for people to believe. Just like Hardik mentioned that there was an AI video of me, which later we realized was done by the Pakistani deep state. So what happened really, to briefly narrate you a story, I was doing an interview with an Italian journalist called Francesca Marino, and this was on Jaish-e-Mohammed and the book she had written about it. To my surprise and shock, just days after this interview, I was forwarded several clips of this interview in almost similar to my voice, and this was a deep fake. And the Pakistani deep state was able to convert this entire interview video of me interacting with the Italian journalist about a so-called topic of Indian army personnel resigning and who are upset with their leadership, etc. So this was a deliberate plant that was done. And to my surprise and shock, I was getting this video from Indian army personnel who almost believed it and who was saying that, why are you doing this video? And I had to explain to them that, boss, this is not my voice, and this is a deep fake. So this is increasingly becoming a huge challenge, I think, for the government of India also. And I'm sure that we'll have the technology and the bandwidth to deal with it in future. But increasingly, such videos are coming out. During Operation Sindoor also, there were such videos coming out which almost left you believe that, we were facing a huge challenge at the border and we did not know what to do. Often we see global leaders, in a similar fashion, deepfake videos being used. And I think the biggest challenge during that time of Operation Sindoor was the kind of information that was coming in every possible minute and second. And we as journalists were trying to debunk it on X and other social media platforms, but this is much bigger. I mean, India is huge. There's only a very minute, minuscule population which is on X, Facebook, Instagram and other social media platforms. So how do you actually make those people believe in rural India or even in urban centers who do not use social media that, here's a war that is going on and this is the position that we are in? I mean, we did have those rumors about the civil defense exercise taking place at that time and how India was going to respond, which is great, and media does its role in a particular fashion. But I think when it comes to disinformation and misinformation, it's a huge, massive challenge. There needs to be one recognition that this is the future and this is what we are dealing with. Wars are not just about tanks, missiles, and the way to stop it is to also how to counter the kind of disinformation and misinformation that's coming in. And often this misinformation is also in the form of public statements that often come in from different sides of the planet, and we have to, of course, build in resilient technologies to deal with it. Lastly, I would mention, and stray away from this topic, I mean, it's great the kind of scale that India has used to organize this summit. More than 70 countries participating, more than 20 heads of state out here. We have perhaps more than 100 companies who are dealing with artificial intelligence, many startups also participating. But I would be a devil's advocate and say that perhaps we need to also start with the basic. I would have loved if AI was used for crowd management and traffic management in Delhi, because I think that was the biggest talking point yesterday. I think the people who suffered at the gates wouldn't have suffered if we had used this, and perhaps this is a lesson for next time, how to use the artificial intelligence, and there needs to be public and private partnership to build on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya sir, for that deeply unsettling but absolutely necessary conversation, exposure of how coordinated foreign information networks operate against India and how quickly they can undermine trust if we are not prepared. Moving on ahead to Pathikrit sir now. Pathikrit sir, you have studied how narratives and networks shape security outcomes from PFI to broader social cohesion. Information warfare is about eroding institutional trust and turning societies against themselves. From a national security and a resilience perspective, how do we help Indians become resistant to manipulation while staying open to information in a democracy?
Thank you, Hardik, and it's wonderful to be in this beautiful event. Let me straightly come to the point. Couple of years back, one morning, I received a call from one of the news channels, English news channel, and I was asked, there has been a bombing in Pentagon. Would you love to give your comment on that? I said, bombing in Pentagon. I said, I don't know about this. Give me 10 minutes time. 10 minutes later, no call came because it took them 10 minutes to realize it was a deep fake. Imagine if that had stayed without any information for another 10 minutes, stock markets across the world would have crashed. Somebody would have made a lot of money. Another 10 minutes, military would have been on air. That's the danger with AI. So government actually has come out with something called a couple of days back that every digitally altered image or audio has to be defined as synthetically changed information. You have to label it. And it's very, very important. But the issue is it that disinformation is something new? I would say not. We have been facing disinformation warfare for the last 150 years, and we are still not realizing that we are in the era of that war that's going on for the last 150 years. Why I say 150 years? In 1857, the whole of India unitedly fought against the brutality of the British in the 1857 mutiny. And the British realized that this country is too united. The construct they use to dominate and capture other countries will not work here. From 1857 onwards, they started linguistic survey. They started ethnic survey. They divided the country into Aryan and Dravidian. That never existed before. We started fighting on language. We started fighting on caste. And by 1947, we forgot that this country has been brutally traumatized, plundered, looted. The British alone looted $45 trillion. We forgot everything. And from 1947 onwards, what has been the narrative that all the wrongs in this country is because of the Brahmins. And we are still facing that thing. My friend Aditya is sitting here. He has been himself a victim of what the Kashmiri Pandit faced in Kashmir. A genocidal thing. And we are still driven by what the British constructed. And that's why Prime Minister Modi says that Macaulay mindset is something that you have to fight against. Another example of disinformation warfare. 1971 war, the war for independence of Bangladesh. Thousands of Indians, personnel of the Indian Army lost their lives. India did everything possible to help Bangladesh liberate itself. Trained the Mukti Yodha. And when 1971, when Bangladesh was formed as an independent country, we thought that we have done our job. Now they will be a great, separate, friendly neighbor. 1971 onwards, after the war, we stopped. Pakistan did not. Pakistan kept on investing in Bangladesh to cultivate an anti-Indian narrative when we were not doing that thing. And we saw in 2024, when there was a regime change operation, we realized the kind of hatred that exists inside Bangladesh. That was not organic, that was organized. That was disinformation warfare at its peak. AI only amplifies that. AI itself is not the problem. The problem is the disinformation warfare. And you need to use the same AI tool to counter that. And always remember, you can never have narrative sovereignty till the time you have tech and data sovereignty. Because every AI would have its own bias. And we are facing it on a daily basis. The Maoists have been called Gandhians with guns. Imagine. The kind of brutality that the Maoists have done in this country, it is unspeakable. There was an event which SPMRF did last September on Naxal Mukt Bharat. And we were the first to bring in victims of Maoism in large numbers in a show, in an event. Now, what are we facing today? Think about it. Balakot airstrike happened. Aditya talked about Operation Sindoor. Balakot airstrike happens. The next day, ISPR comes and says, oh, nothing happened to that building. There's just a small hole. And we all fell for that trap. What is a trap? Because we are conditioned to believe that every time there is an explosion, things are supposed to dismantle, which always need not be so. So, Indian Air Force that day, particular during the Balakot strike, used something called a thermobaric bomb. It has fuel-air explosives. It enters the building through a small, because it has a very, very strong steel, armor. It enters, and it does not carry any kind of shrapnels. So what it carries fuel-air explosives. So it explodes inside by going through a small hole, and it creates reflecting shock waves. So in that confined area of reflecting shock waves where the temperature goes up to 1500 degrees Celsius for certain seconds, everything that is organic is vaporized. Air Force did its work. We did our work as the government of India did its work. But the moment that was shown that there is just a hole, and this is the typical Israeli warfare of urban-centric warfare mechanism to reduce collateral damage. What happens? You have the WhatsApp in front of you, you have the Twitter, you have social media, you believe what they were saying. You were not believing your own Air Force. It was as if the Air Force pilot was supposed to go down, take photographs, and then take over the plane again and go. So, fighting the conventional war, fighting terrorism in one part of it, fighting the narrative war is equally important. The ones who do terrorism project themselves as victims. How do you deal with that? The problem is in the morning when you open your social media or digital media, you do not decide what you would see, somebody else is deciding. Think about it, my last point. In 2024, when the thing happened in Bangladesh, everywhere it was projected as if it's an iconic thing happening. That's the next big revolution, and as if the next should happen in India. Right? And if you go to Eastern India that time, I have seen every mobile phone had the same kind of pattern of feed coming from Bangladesh. Somebody was controlling it. And that person was not in Bangladesh, but somewhere else. This time, 1.5 years later, when the election happened over there, that iconic student movement, which was told by the Western media that India should replicate to have a similar regime change operation, that student group got only 6 seats out of 299. Such was their popularity. That means look at the difference between reality and what is told to you. So we are living in a conditioned world where I would say you must read, you must see, but don't judge instantly. And any government will take a little time to react. But in today's world, it's a 365 days, 24/7 narrative warfare. And we are easily conditioned to discredit our own institutions, our own government, our own media, our own people, because somebody else told us so. That is where the problem is, and we have to address that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pathikrit sir, for that strategic talk on how misinformation is misused in a society. Moving ahead to Achina ma'am. Ma'am, through AEOS, you have built an ecosystem where hundreds of creators use Jain AI to reach billions. You are on the front line of AI-powered content. What does ethical AI look like in real world of creators and audiences? Where, in your view, is the line between responsible AI-driven content and deceptive deepfakes?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me here, Hardik. Very, very excited seeing India host this. Coming to your question, so this is something we've been thinking about for over 2 years now, since we started dabbling with AI avatars in around 2023, before this even became mainstream. And we do use a lot of AI avatars for our short form content across channels. So we came down to a simple framework consisting of 3 pillars. The first thing being consent means if you are replicating someone's likeness using AI, have they explicitly consented to it? See, if you're using your own face, your own likeness, for example, for my short form content, I use AI avatars of myself. It's my own opinions, my own writing. There, I think there's no question of consent, but if you are putting words in somebody else's mouth that they never said, then that's where the line crosses from responsible to deceptive. The second thing is transparency. Does your audience know that they are consuming synthetic media, or are you trying to hide the fact, or are you trying to trick your audience into believing that this is real human content when it's actually AI? So essentially, disclosing the use of AI in your content and maintaining that transparency is very, very important. The third thing is intent. For example, the kind of content that we create across the organization, across our multiple channels, is essentially breaking news, is informational content. So the intent behind it has always been to educate. So we feel like, in spaces where the information is the hero of your content rather than the personality themselves, we feel like the use of AI is, again, ethical there. But there's a saying, right? There's this analogy that I often use, that a knife, it can be used to either create a warm meal for your family, or it can be used to harm someone. So the knife is not the problem, same way the technology here is very neutral, but the intent behind using it really matters. So it essentially comes down to 3 things, that is consent, transparency, and intent behind using AI, and that's how you draw the line between ethical AI and unethical AI.
Ma'am, I have a follow-up question. What does your data show? Are audiences more engaged with AI-heavy AI-heavy content or human authentic content? Is there a backlash over AI-produced content?
So this is a great question, because we have a lot of data around this, a lot of metrics across billions of views from last 2 years, and what we have realized is it all comes down to 2 things, that is context and the type of content that you're creating. For example, for informational content, for news, for short form content, we have seen that AI generated content often outperforms human generated content. Why? Because speed matters a lot. See, when something happens around the world, people care more about learning about it faster as opposed to whether it was created by a human or whether it was created by an AI. So in these spaces, we have seen that, if the content is informational, if it's short form content, we have seen that AI content often outperforms. Because if you are trying to break that same piece of news with an AI avatar, it's going to take you 20 minutes versus if you're going to do it with a human, it's probably going to take you 4 to 5 hours, because you require a setup, you need to shoot, you need to edit that piece of content. The second thing that we have noticed is when it comes to long form content or opinions or personal stories or podcast, human content trumps AI content by a large margin, because there people are essentially looking to build a relationship with you. People want to see the micro expressions, people want to see the hesitation. So when it comes to long form content, I think human content, it definitely outperforms AI content. The way where AI essentially can be leveraged for long form content or telling personal stories is essentially using the tools to storytell better. For example, we had recently created a documentary on Indian infrastructure and roads. And there we wanted to tell the story about a particular road in Pune from 1950s, and we could not find any archival footage available for the same. So there we used a lot of AI tools to essentially recreate history, to storytell, the instances from 1950s better, and the audience really genuinely also appreciated it. So I feel like clever use of AI in long form with human-led stories is what we have seen perform really well, but with short form, especially informational content, AI performs better than humans.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for bringing in the creator and youth perspective, and for reminding us that the real question is not just what AI can do, but how responsibly we can choose to use it. With this, I would like to move forward to have a discussion with Mukesh Jain sir. Sir, from your 30 years of experience, including building products at Microsoft used by billions, what design principles are essential for trust and safety in AI era?
Thank you, Hardik, for having me. Jai Jinendra and Namaste, all of you. See, all my years, like most of us probably have seen AI in the last 3 years and 3 months after the launch of ChatGPT, which was the great move, giving AI in everybody's hand. But I go long back. 1992 was the first time when I used AI, and that time nobody knew about AI, and it was very interesting that AI can solve problem. 1999 when I joined Microsoft, when I came to know about Bill Gates having junk email, 15,000 junk email per day, and that was the time I said, you know what, can you solve this with AI? And the response I get from Bill Gates is, that's theoretical. So yahi solve karna hai. Then yeah, there's a challenge, right? Let's solve this problem. So when we started doing this part, very early years of my career at Microsoft, doing this part, it was all about not just technology, not an algorithm, human behavior. I strongly believe AI is only successful if you are able to connect with human. So very simple algorithm, I'll just share in 1 minute, and you'll understand and how it was built, and then how it was forefront for most of the Microsoft technology after that. Think about it. Are you going to read a junk email for more than 5 seconds? Probably not. Are you going to delete an important email in less than 3 seconds? Probably not. Every activity or inactivity generates data. So AI is not just about using generative AI, ChatGPT, Gemini or Copilot. It's more than that. It's about, do you understand the fundamentals of the data, which means human activity and inactivity generates data. So my thinking starts from that point that yes, let's capture this. There was not much internet, there was not much ChatGPT of course at that time, and of course there were not enough books that somebody have done this, and no Python of course. So building that small solution, working it on my computer, and then I'm showing it to Bill Gates and getting a wow from him was like a Nobel Prize. 94% of the junk was caught within a week. That started thinking what else can be done. So I was not good at English, so somebody forced me to write a paper, and that was the first paper I wrote, about 7 pages long, about how concepts of data, Pokayoke, which is the manufacturing concept, and human interaction part, can actually help Microsoft softwares. So to answer your question, in the 30 years, I was there for 13 years in the US, and that was most of the products, you know what can we do to understand the intent? The ma'am was talking about intent, right? Understand the intent, what is the person trying to do, and accordingly, optimizing the solution for that person without touching data privacy part of it. So think about it, when you're going and doing a search, you will see a certain shade of blue. Again, done due to AI. Because I strongly believe, Dulhan wahi jo piya man bhai, which is a Hindi word translation for the word personalization. So now if I'm focusing on personalization, which means understand the signals of the human and accordingly personalize it so that it's done while keeping the data privacy law intact. So that was the foundation of it. But over a period of time, as you see, right, more and more people want to use it. But what they want to use it? Can this help us do better? Now, 2 ways you can use AI. You can use AI to replace your own job, or you can use AI as an assistant for yourself. So my focus always has been, AI is a great tool, but you have to start with the basics, fundamentals, data. Every activity and inactivity generates data. You start with the understanding of the data, analyzes what's happening, कहना क्या चाहते हो, like what is the data trying to tell you, understanding those pieces and then interpreting it and getting insights. Oh, that's what's happening. While we were sitting outside, I was giving an example. Let's say आपका सर दर्द है, you have a headache and you ask somebody will give you a crocin or a dolo. That's it, right? But did you understand why this is happening? Are you going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points in ChatGPT say, I have a headache, and you will not put anything compared to an AI understanding you. You know what, Mukesh? You slept a little late. You had a heavy dinner yesterday, and you traveled, and you were sleep deprived for the last 2 days. The headache is because of that. You know what? You should press this is over here, that over here. Your headache will go away. Ayurveda, acupressure, all combinations together probably can work better for you. Are we there yet? No. But what is the disinformation? We are getting a lot of disinformation about this, do this, it will happen, that will happen and all. And of course, WhatsApp University, Instagram University are more prevalent because if it is printed, if it is done in a video, probably it's true. We are not saying this. The audience believes that. Audience believes that. When you hear that phrase saying that 9 out of 10 dentists recommends any product, I'm not naming the product, you believe. Your mental state is telling you 90% of the people are saying this. That's disinformation. While they are technically true. Because 10 doctors have given recommendation of multiple toothpaste. But only जो देखना है वही देखते लोग. People will only see what they want to see. So I think AI, as was very well said, it's a knife. It's a tool. You can use it for a better purpose. You should use it for a better purpose. But I think what we really need is, based on some of the learned speakers already talked about, we need a defense mechanism like a kavach. Like a kavach. When something comes in, right? Is there a way we can say, you know what, is this news true or not? Because what happens? 100 lies will make it true. Because every news channel is talking about this, every site I'm seeing this part, maybe it's true. And that's exactly what is happening. And can you blame AI? Yes, you can blame AI. Why? Because AI job is machine learning. Machine learns. Machine learning from multiple sources and learning about it and then saying that, yeah, this is what truth looks like. But that this 100 site it has crawled, out of the 70 site had a misinformation. So how does it do that part? Is there any disclaimer part of it? When I saw a law being enacted in Singapore, wherein any AI related part, you have to have certain points. I think we have a good opportunity, and I'm giving my services also, some interaction, deliberation already happened in India, government level, wherein we can say, can we moderate this? Can we have a governance wherein, if you are spreading false information, doesn't matter whether it was AI or you yourself are doing it, it is penalized, and this is how you will be penalty. Bias. AI have bias. Gender bias, nation bias, and a lot of other bias are there. Can we do this part? Coming from a technology background, I always believe that technology is there to help us. But then some of the innovation, I'm also working with some of the universities and where I'm an advisor to actually come up with some innovation in that area where we can do something and make a recommendation to the government. You know what? Here is a tool. Potentially we can use. Government may make a regulation immediately or may make it after 5 years, 10 years. That's okay. But at some point we need to have a tool. Comfort tool that, you know what, I got this news. Is it fake or not? Is it possible to do? Yes, it's possible to do, but again, using AI. So opportunities are there. And one other thing I've learned, especially working with students and, get an honor to work with 4 different generations. But when you're working with them, we get to know that, you know what, yes, AI is here to stay. And with this AI Impact Summit for India, I think we are doing really great in terms of establishing that yes, we are there. We are there in the not just in the race, but to make this really valuable for India, especially in the area which is near to my heart, which is into the area of education, healthcare, and farming. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this part. It will take us longer further.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, before I close up, I have a follow-on question to Aditya Rajkaul, sir. Sir, you mentioned that India was on back foot during Operation Sindoor, especially for tackling the Pakistani propaganda. And it's a question from national security perspective. Is India ready for such future conflicts? Is India preparing?
I didn't say that we were on the back foot. I said that we had to be a little better aware and prepared. What happens in future is that a resilient India will certainly learn lessons, because in the past as well, if we see the operation that was conducted, the surgical strike after Uri, or for instance Balakot that my friend spoke about, after the Pulwama terror attack, and now after Pahalgam we had the Operation Sindoor, every time you see that there are lessons that are there from the battlefield, and the battlefield is not just at the border, it is the cyberspace, it is also the information warfare that is prevalent. And I say this repeatedly, that the Indian Armed Forces, and it's not limited to the Indian Armed Forces, even when it comes to the internal security of India, I think there's a huge amount of disinformation and misinformation that is used. We should perhaps have, private bodies and public bodies. For instance, we have EU versus disinformation. In EU, that works wonders. I mean, everybody tracks it very closely. Now, we do have a PIB fact check, but as it happens in bureaucracy in India, they do it the bureaucratic way. They wait for 12 hours for approvals to come in, and then it is posted. By that time, that fake information is spread wide across the WhatsApp channels, across Telegram, across Twitter. So I think we need to build in AI models that are, in time, synced with time, which are live basically, that can counter fake news live. I mean, we do have on X or other platforms right now a node that comes in that is sometimes also not exactly neutral. I mean, the kind of responses that it receives, it's on the basis of that that we have a note or a community note on that. I think there needs to be some kind of a neutrality with which the fact checking needs to be done, not just based on ideology, etc. I think, Hardik, you are in safe hands. The youth of India do not need to worry. The Strategic Forces Command, the IDS, the Indian Armed Forces, I personally am very confident that they are prepared. I do believe that there's much more need of technology to be built in, synced in for the forces. And here at the AI Summit, I think it could be a very good beginning made for this coordination that the government does. But beyond this, as I said last time, I'm again devil's advocate that we do believe in the scale of and the magnitude of it, which is great. More than 100 countries coming here, amazing, fantastic. India taking the lead in AI among the top 3 countries, fantastic. But here we need to also look at the basic issues. Traffic management and crowd management would be something that we can begin at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. With this, I would like to end the session as we are running low on time. On an ending note, I would say thank you to have such a thoughtful and honest discussion. What made this session truly meaningful that we covered AI misinformation from various perspectives. And from every perspective, like from external information warfare to societies, to how behavior and emotions content creation can change AI, as well as from perspective of business, enterprises, etc. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, my panelists. With this, I would like my colleagues Nishu and Nirjar to take over the session.
Great, that was insane. Now, you know the drill. Let's have a loud round of applause for everyone. I hope at least when we get back home today, we picture thoda kuch and take something out of this session. And since we still have the goldfish there on the table, I forgot to highlight it. Phir se bol raha hu, that goldfish. I hope your misconception about misinformation are a lot less now. I hope we were useful and I hope you got something out of the session. Now I would like to Nishu to take over and she'll do the honors.
We now move to a very significant milestone of the evening, the official report launch. I would like to call Devesh and Jal, the research team at TIES, to come up on the stage.
Thank you all for staying with us in such an insightful session. We all would have heard this, Ashwathama mara gaya, Ashwathama mara gaya. But this was one of the earliest incident when we heard of disinformation. The Mahabharata teaches us that even the mightiest warrior like Dronacharya can fall to words of disinformation. That single lie broke Dronacharya and turned the tide of the battle of Kurukshetra. Today, the AI which we see can create thousands of such movements, thousands of such disinformation campaigns at personalized level and with machine-like speed. What we have heard from our distinguished guests, distinguished speakers, are expert perspective. And what we are launching today by TIESVERSE is how information warfare has changed from human coordination to AI-generated fakes, bot army, specialized messages targeted at us, targeted at you, based on what we click, what we share, and how we react. Let's go to the brief of our report. It covers especially the part of India, a country with dozens of languages, open internet, and active adversaries like Pakistan, China, and US. And all of this is happening right now, and this disinformation campaign is becoming a big hurdle. Our report tackles the tough questions, such as, how do we stop this without killing innovation? How do we build detection without creating surveillance? And how do we protect people without controlling speech? Finally, our report lays out concrete steps, policy moves, tech investment, interagency protocols, and building a society that can spot and resist manipulation. Our report will be helpful to policymakers, security agencies, research institutions in India's AI revolution. Thank you.
I would request the panel to come forward for report launch. Jalan Devesh, please come for a picture. Thank you, everybody. You can take your places.
Now that we move ahead from here, we would now like to invite Prithviraj Singh and Ritika for an end thank you note.
Good afternoon, everyone present here and the whole Bharat who is connected with us via live YouTube screening. First of all, before closing, I want to try something quick with you guys. So I'm going to say a few words. And if you guys think that it spreads faster than truth, then just raise your hands, okay? So first is sensational gossip, rumors, outrage, forwarded as received. Exactly, and that's the reason why sessions like today are really important. Today, we didn't just discuss artificial intelligence, we discussed human intelligence, ability of humans to pause, verify, question, and act responsibly. We discussed policy to media, from research to civil societies, how disinformation is not just a technology problem, but it's a problem of trust, and the courage, and when we individuals lack courage to question what is told to us. At TIESVERSE Foundation, we have always believed in disseminating truth, whether during the instances of national importance like Operation Sindoor or like Lok Sabha elections.
And with that perspective, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the people who made this event possible. As the co-founder of TIESVERSE Foundation, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our eminent speakers. It has been a privilege to listen to Mr. Mukesh Jain, Mr. Aditya Kaul, Ms. Achina Mayya, Ms. Pathikrit Payne as they unpack the evolving relationship between AI and the growing menace of disinformation. We are deeply honored by the presence of a guest of honor, and we sincerely value the consistent guidance and support of our partner at Syama Mookerjee Research Foundation. One thing I'm constantly reminded of is that moments like this on stage are never built alone. A powerful workforce of 100+ people has been tirelessly working at TIESVERSE Foundation. I want to thank my co-founder Hardik Pathak and my incredible team sitting over here and at home watching us on YouTube live. This day would not have been possible without you guys, so thanks for believing in the vision of TIESVERSE Foundation, guys. Lastly, we are grateful to everyone who joined us today for this session and for being such a responsive audience. Jai Hind.
Finally, for the facilitation ceremony, I would like to call upon Aditya from TIESVERSE Foundation and Sunny Singh from SPMRF to join us on the stage.
We would request the speakers to stand up and click pictures with the team. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. It was a pleasure having you with us. And with that, we come to the end of the session. Bhool chook maaf kar dena. We'll come back in another session again somewhere down the line. Have a good day. Bye.